You want a tip on how I keep up with the pace of this election cycle? Hang around until the end of this video to learn how to unlimit your information with ground news. Remember what I've been saying over the course of the last couple days, that now it's kind of a repeat of what I said in 2016, that we're gonna have to rely on journalists, even though we're gonna have to rely more on independent media now than ever. We're gonna have to rely on authors of books who typically are, journalists in some sense. We're gonna have to rely on the judiciary. Now, that one's in shambles a little bit because Donald Trump, he really ran up the score relative to how many radically unqualified radical right-wingers that he appointed to the judicial branch, to seats across the country in various districts. Joe Biden hasn't had as much luck in that way. Democrats haven't pushed hard enough. They haven't played the game hard enough. They haven't been as aggressive as Republicans. Not as cutthroat, not as effective in getting judicial nominees through. That's on us. I hope we learn from our mistakes, talking to you, Chuck Schumer, and leaders in the Senate. I hope you're reflecting on your weakness in moments like this. I hope they are, because that's what it is. It is what it is. Look, and I know there's going to be a lot of people, well, when you have a mansion and you have a cinema, it's not as easy. It's not as easy. But that's why we give these people intensely difficult jobs, because they are capable of doing them, right? If you have a job that you've been hired to do and you're not capable of it, you don't just get to say, well, it's a hard job. No, you're required to do the job, hard or not. And they failed in many ways. So, to get on to the point, since I just sidetracked myself, we're going to have to rely on state courts now more than ever, because state courts have the ability to hold these monsters accountable, free from the reach of a presidential pardon. I talked yesterday about Chris Mays, the Attorney General of the state of Arizona, who is unintimidated by the threats. She is undaunted by the re-election of Donald Trump. She's going to proceed with prosecuting the people who took part in the plot, the fake electors plot, to overthrow the United States government by way of overturning a free and fair election. She's going to do it. And again, Donald Trump has no authority, constitutionally or otherwise, to pardon those people when, if convicted. Now, here we are, 2.5 minutes in, 2 minutes and 40 seconds in, and here's the headline from ABC dealing with Steve Bannon in a state case. A state case, unpardonable by Donald Trump. Judge declines to postpone Steve Bannon's trial on We Built the Wall fraud charges. The staunch Trump ally is fresh out of prison on contempt of Congress charges. A New York judge on Tuesday declined to immediately postpone Steve Bannon's December 9th trial on charges that he defrauded supporters of President-elect Donald Trump, who donated to an online campaign to fund a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. You may remember, if you're really in this space in an unhealthy way, you may remember the guy who was a disabled veteran. I think he had one arm, but he had 2 legs missing. Maybe he was missing an arm too. He got harmed in combat. Pretty gravely injured. I don't know if grave means death, but very injured, lost limbs. And he was in this with Steve Bannon to do a GoFundMe, or this independent fundraising mechanism, private fundraising. And then the allegation is, the other guy got convicted, that they were using the money to buy houses and boats and trips and lavish living based on MAGA's hatred of immigrants and their fervent fundraising efforts to build a multi-billion-dollar wall with private funds. And MAGA fell for it. Of course, MAGA fell for it because, it's MAGA and they're morons. So, excuse me, I'm having a voice problem here. So here's a little bit from the article to give you a flavor for what's going on and the consequence that absolutely is going to be faced by Steve Bannon. Judge April Neubauer left open the possibility of moving the trial date, but only after hearing on Monday about some of the evidence that prosecutors want to use, which prosecutors said would not add any time to the week-long trial. Quote, "We don't see it having any impact on the length of the trial from the people's perspective," Assistant Manhattan District Attorney Jeffrey Levinson said. Quote, "The notion that this is a shock or a surprise, I think, is misplaced." Prosecutors said they want to use certain evidence to establish Bannon's motives for allegedly defrauding donors to the campaign. Bannon's lawyers said they would now need additional time to respond. You see, these are just delay tactics, the same types that we've seen from Donald Trump in his many cases, because he wanted to push this thing past the election date just in case he was reelected, and here we are. Now, Bannon is just a legal strategy to delay. Quote, "We may now need to offer testimony and or evidence countering the assertion that Mr. Bannon was motivated by personal profit," defense attorney John Carmen said. He hinted that Bannon's co-defendants in a related federal case could be called to testify. Bannon never faced federal charges because he was pardoned by then President Trump on Trump's final night in office during his first term. The pardon only applied to the federal case and did not preclude state charges. And then final paragraph here. Bannon had told donors to We Build the Wall campaign that their money would 100% go toward building a wall along the U.S. southern border, while prosecutors say some of the $15 million in donations were secretly funneled to himself and the campaign's president, Brian Colfage. I mean, look, if don't hold your breath waiting for me to cry for these MAGA idiots who funded this $15 million boondoggle, allegedly, thinking it was going to fund a wall that would cost billions of dollars. I know math is hard, MAGA pukes. I know that you don't understand that $1 billion is 1,000 million and multiple $1 billion is multiple thousands of million. And you raise 15 million. You're really putting a dent in that wall construction price. You got to buy land. You gotta have an architect out there. You got to engineer the wall. You got to build the wall. You got to maintain the wall. But your 15 million went a long way to enrich Steve Bannon and the Colfage guy, allegedly. Brian Colfage. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think. Am I right or wrong? That's really the most important thing. Am I right or wrong? You can comment below. You can also call, leave me a voicemail on my voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, email me daily@dollemore.com. Please consider supporting this particular independent media channel. If I'm not your guy and there's someone else out there in this space or others that are doing a good job and bring you value in independent media, please support them. But if it is me, click the join button below for $1.99. You can become a channel member. You can go to my Patreon page, which is probably better. They take way less money than YouTube. Patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. Follow me on social media where I'm left. Not everywhere. I stopped using Twitter. @Dollemore. Love to see you there. See you next time. Be genuine. Be less like Steve Bannon. Take care of one another. This presidential election is going to be the most pivotal in modern American history. Once you've cast your vote, though, you need to think beyond the implications of this particular election. Disinformation and right-wing extremism, they aren't going away anytime soon. With the amount of voices in the discourse, it is easier than ever to be misled or misinformed. You need to be able to critically assess the news that you're ingesting. Where can you do that? Ground News. They're an independent, nonpartisan news platform dedicated to exposing any hidden agendas in the information you consume. I find Ground News valuable because they show which way news outlets lean politically, who funds them, and whether their reporting is honest. Use Ground News' app, website, or browser extension to instantly access all the perspectives on any issue and avoid being manipulated. Plus, if you sign up for their Vantage plan, you can access features designed to highlight opposing narratives on the left and the right and expose your own blind spots too. I regularly encourage everybody in my audience to avoid echo chambers and to check the facts. You are well aware just how rapidly the lies of Trump and others can be spread and how long that they can linger. Go to ground.news/Dollemore or just scan this QR code for integrity-driven news that you can trust and confidently share with others. Sign up with me and you'll get a huge deal on the same top-tier Vantage plan that I use. With our very democracy at stake this season, it is essential that you are clearly informed. Subscribe to Ground News today, and remember, the fight for democracy doesn't stop after November 5th. It's just getting started.